sword.
Are you ready?
Okay.
That decibel is for the dogs at the farm. Okay, we're going to talk about self-awareness. We were having a conversation on the way here. I was talking about myself. What else is there to talk about? In regards to like my role in the negative parts of the friendships that I've experienced in my life. And I didn't expect you to say it was my lack of self-awareness, but I figured it would be a nice thing to talk about in the podcast.
In principle, there is no self. In principle, I just put that out there. There's no self. But what exists here as you, we call it as a self. It's the habits, the functionality, the form you have taken. So self-awareness is to be aware the person I'm being and have become. Existentially, there is no self. There is nothing there. There is just pure awareness, if you want to go in the philosophical term. But as you meet life, you are formed. You form a habit, you form a reaction, right? And you have to be aware of it. If you're not aware, that becomes you. It's like this. Let's say your life makes you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, go to bed at 10, and after some time, oh, that's me. No, that's not you. That what has come to be you. You're someone who wake up at 7 and go to bed at 10. So self-awareness primarily is to be aware of the form I've taken in a way that I will not be only reduced to that form. Like people say, I'm searching for myself. That's you. You say, what do you mean by that? No, the one that searches for the self is you. It's not that you're searching for self. That seeking the self is you. You are that person. You have become that person. So self-awareness is to know what have you become. What is the form that has crystallized? And many times when you're not self-aware, that self is all that is there as you. You see, as a child, what are you? There is some characteristic, agreed. Like PAT, like Paul says, you have a certain personality that you're born with, agreed, right? But all this personality are innocent. It's just what you are. And then it meets life and it forms a habit, a thought process, a crystallization. And then you think that is what you are. When you become aware, you are not limited by waking up at 7 and going to bed at 10. You can adjust it too. You can wake up at 5 and go to bed at 11. You can adjust. So self-awareness primarily is an action that I'm not reduced to this self that has happened by meeting life. Follow? Let's say you're born in a poor family. You will develop that habit of being poor, That becomes you. You're conscious of price or whatever. Something is happening. Is that you? Now, what has happened to most of us is what has accidentally developed as you and me, habits, pattern, exposure, we make that as who we are, and then we don't have awareness of that, and that is operating. So you're almost operating blinded to what you have been conditioned to become. So self-awareness is not to be limited by the idea of self. I tell you a story. This is when I was a kid. It was shocking. It was this a Chinese adopted lady. She was adopted at birth. She's Chinese by an Indian family. So she grew up completely Indian. She's more Indian than me. And one day there was a dispute between the Chinese and the Indian, and she's standing there and shouting, saying, all these Chinese people are like this. I was laughing my head off. But it's nothing to laugh about, It is what she has accepted as her. By birth, she was Chinese.
By ethnicity.
By ethnicity. But from day one, she was adopted by Indians. So for all intents and purposes, is Indian. But you can see the contradiction. If an Indian saying that, I might say, yeah, I was born Indian. Which means to say the self is an adaptation to our environment, isn't it? And once we adopt a self based on our environment, we get trapped by it. So self-awareness is that I'm not limited by the condition or the state of self that has been created by my environment. Like in the East, there's the word called samadhi, You have gone back to your origin. That means you have gone back to the pure state. You have gone back to the state before the self was created. You follow? Before the self was created. But now when the self is created, we are not aware of the self. The self is operating. I get up at 7, I go to bed at 10, and that's operating. That has become me.
So are you saying that if we're not aware of ourselves, we're just like living with what other people put onto us?
Yep. Or what your condition put onto you. Yeah.
Or how do you get like to be self-aware?
Watch. Keep watching you.
And it doesn't just happen that fast, right? Like what I was talking to you about in the car is that like I've had like now within literally the past 4 years, 3 friendships where it literally got to the point where when one of them I felt like it was a dangerous situation, then I was like, no, we're not going to be friends anymore. The other one I was like, I don't even know if I can, you're treating me so badly for so long, and I just let it go. Now sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know why I still maintain this friendship, and it's happening again, and I'm like, it has to be me. It has to be me.
No. It has become you. The first time could be accident. Somebody mistreat you, you take it. In time, it becomes you, right? Now, since you have some self-awareness, you're saying, no, I don't want to be this self. Right? Because this self is not serving me. This self is putting me in trouble. So what I'm saying is, whatever self you have.
But you see, the thing is, right, prior to this, I always felt that like I'm very like empathetic towards these other people. I'm trying to be kind. I'm trying to offer them like...
That's also a self.
But it's almost like it's ego-driven that like I am this kind of like kind person.
Then you're managing a self. See the price you had to pay to hold on to an idea of you. And all I'm saying, this is it's your discernment. What do you want to do with it? That self is not you. The self was created by your environment. You understand? You are not this. That's the freedom. You want to stay? You stay that person. You think no, but you are not trapped.
Yeah.
Then you make a conscious choice of the self you want to put on. Right?
But I felt that I was consciously being the kind of person who wasn't selfish, is what I felt.
Yeah. Maybe you have to drop that self and be a self that is a bit selfish.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to drive to you is, all selves are created. Essentially, there is no self. Essentially, there is just pure awareness, pure love, pure, I don't know what word you want to use, just something organic. All selves are accumulative. Like what Paul Fayette's finding shows, that we are born with traits. We have certain personalities, that we are born 7 personalities and 24 traits we have. But these are traits and tendencies, the self that comes out of it. The self is the reaction or the conditioning based on this. Now follow this. That self creates the reality. Let's say you have a self, you are selfless. Of course, take abuse. You don't want to be selfish? Give away what you have. Because that's the translation of being selfless. It's like this. If you say, I'm a loving person, do you know what you're communicating? You don't love yourself. I love you more than me.
And people like that.
Of course. Now that you realize it, what you got to do is you can change this self. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's just like, it's a very like upsetting realization. Because it's not just for me, I just realized that like people are not going to be, they're not going to be that happy for you.
No, you are, yeah, sorry, but you are blessed. Now you can be free of that self.
Yeah, like I just feel like people are not going to be that happy for you. People are going to use you, abuse your kindness. They're gonna, like you say, like I have like long. Like the word leash isn't the right word, but the word I have, like you have long leashes with your friends, right? If you don't reply me or you don't text me back, it's fine, like all of that. But after a certain point, you're using that. You're using that. What
No,
I'm
but
giving
all
you.
of that because you had a self that wanted to be selfless.
Mm.
And the moment you are selfless, the other has no obligation to respond to you.
And you would hope, what is the hope is that people would see that and they wouldn't abuse it. But I think people can't help themselves.
No, leave what people do. That self is not serving you.
Yeah.
And you are not trapped to be that self. That's my point. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm saying you can free yourself from any self you want. Let's say you have a self that makes you broke. You have a self that doesn't get your job done. You have a self, a bit of a loser. I'm saying you don't have to suffer being that self. That self is an illusion. You can drop it. This notion of a self is just an imprint. Somebody walks through the door, we can almost tell, what is his background. By his mannerism, we can tell. Does he come from a poor family, rich family? Is he educated? How come? We are seeing the imprint of his past on him, right? My question is that imprint him? Or it is just an imprint that he can drop?
How do you figure that out?
No, self-realization. Start realizing the self that is occupying you. Oh my God, I'm being this person.
Yeah. And it's kind of like annoying that it has to happen to you like 3 times or 4 times. And you're like, oh wait, I'm the problem.
No, but you are lucky. 3, 4 times you wake up. But let's say you think that self is you. Now you're stuck. My point, if you think that self that you have is you, you cannot drop it.
But how can somebody think that? We're never really, truly, fully cooked, right?
You. But some people will think, oh, I am like that. No, you're not like that.
Yeah, because like I've changed. Like I used to be one kind of person. I'm not. I'm somebody else now.
That means you are saying my self is not real. As I realize, I can change the self that adapts to me, which means to say my true state is that which is beyond the self.
Yeah, and I think the realization, the thing that's hard is that you hoped that the people that you love will always be happy for your realizations and your change.
No, the people that really love you will always be happy.
But it seems like the circle is getting tinier.
No, you are realizing not everybody loves you. Move on.
Yeah.
Move on.
It's even when I always never thought I'd be somebody who wants to leave Malaysia. And when I had that feeling, I was like, to accept it like that whole like little like 3 months of like, I thought I'm this person. Actually, I'm this other person. What do I do now?
No, you are neither this person nor that person. You wake up to be the person you need to be to meet the challenge. You understand?
Yeah.
You wake up to be the person to meet the challenge. So by this, I know the audience might get confused. The self is an illusion. There is a primal disposition of you. Agreeability or conscientiousness. There are certain, now they're saying, we are born wired that way. That is your wiring, that is not you. And if you're aware of it, you can manage it.
Yeah, if we talk about the PAT, right? I'm somebody who has low conscientiousness. But because of how I was raised and what I was a dancer, I was this, I could only dance if I get certain grades at school, all of that. I couldn't be so kalankabodo. I don't know what's the...
Chaotic.
Chaotic. That I had to figure out that I can be chaotic. So that's how I'm wired. But I have made provisions that I am organized.
No, you have created a self that compensates it.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. We all born with a predisposition. This predisposition meets life. we form a reaction, or a reaction happens to us and we think that is who we are. When actually the self is an illusion. The self is nothing but the avatar you take on to meet your life. But the error of most is they think that's what they are. And once you think that self is all you are, you cannot free yourself from it. Then you have to suffer it. And since you can't change, you need your environment to change. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Slowly, pay attention to this. I know some of you will have a reaction, but I am this. I'm not fighting you. You go ahead and be whatever you want to be. But I'm asking you to question. Is this self that you say is you, is it you? Or is it the effect you have gone through? If it is an effect, then it's not you. You accidentally believe it is you. By that, you are trapped by it. I'm saying any self can be dropped. Because essentially, there is no self. There is just pure essence that puts on this self based on its experiences. But the moment you're trapped by a self, you think that's what you are, you can never free yourself from it. There's a beautiful word in Buddhism, no? Hindu use it, anatta, no self. Actually, I don't have a form. I'm freed from a form. I put on the form. You take twins, two children, twins. You put one in a poor family, put one in a rich family. When they grow up, you'll see the difference. But you'll also see some similarities now, they say. That is the essence. But the self they become are the effect of the environment, right? All I'm saying is that self is not real. It is just a means of a costume. It's just what you put on to live your life.
And do you think we put too much value in that?
In what?
In the selves that we create?
I think we can only be true if we subject ourselves to only be the conditioning we have lived up. Go into this. You're asking about the word self-realization. I think everybody should realize the self they are being. The person you are being. And the moment you realize the self, you can be free of that self. And the suffering and the trouble that self brings. So right now my question is, are you putting on the self that you need to put on to live the life you need to live out? Follow? It's like almost a policeman putting on a uniform, snapping into his role. I know somebody will say, my essence, no, don't talk about that. Your essence could be your neural pathway. Your essence could be your DNA, your biological, what you inherited, They said, this is the true me. These are all words. These are the experiences and the effect they have gone through, consolidated itself in a state of self. They don't know how to free themselves from it. They try to make it real. Are you a selfless girl? I think you are. I think you're a very caring girl. I think that's your nature. That is the self, that is your predisposition. Right? Is that your self? I don't know.
I just don't think it can be.
Sorry?
I just don't think it can be.
Explain.
I just don't think in the world that we live in, being this kind of person all the time, I just don't think people deserve it, to be honest.
Yeah. That means you will put that self on to the people who deserve.
Yeah.
And the people who don't deserve, you won't put. Oh, now you are learning. Now you are learning. But the point I'm trying to make, is the self real? So self-realization is not to be caught into an illusion or a trap of a notion of I that accidentally formed. Follow?
Because there's an ego in that as well, right?
An ego is a denial, So, ego is you have become this, you pretend to be this. That's an ego, right? If you are this and being this, that's not an ego.
Yeah.
That is just trapped into a self. So now, can I pass this message to you? You can mutate yourself as million times as you want. You don't have to be consistent. As you see this self is not serving me, you drop. And you ask, how about being true? Your essence is the truth. The no self is the truth. Why do we love children? Why we cannot help it but love children? They haven't put on a self yet. We are dealing with their essence, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
We are not dealing with the self. We are dealing with the essence. We are dealing with the innocence. So the innocence is the original state of you that goes through and then puts on a self. And then convinces itself that self is the only thing real. By that, get trapped by the self until it realizes itself. It can free itself from the self. Makes sense?
But then how do you be in the world? You know what I mean?
No, meet the challenge. Put on the role that you need to put on, like how you dress up. And you dress up honestly. You're saying, I'm playing this role now. You get what I'm saying? I'm playing this role. I need to be this person now. You see, one of the arguments for this is this one. I'm trying to find me. That's your essence, darling. That is only found when the self are dropped. When you remove the rich man's son or the daughter and the poor man's son and daughter, when you remove the effect and you see the essence of that, that's the real self, the essence. Everything else is put on. Get it?
Yeah.
By the effect. Okay, now, having said this, aren't you free? You don't have to remain this self. You don't have to be this self that is abused by people. You don't have to be this self that is a loser in the world. But the problem with most people is they have defended their self. They say, I'm like this. No. No. Because they have learned to abuse that self too. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is self-realization? I'm realizing the self I'm wearing now. And since I'm aware of the self I'm wearing, I can wear the self I need to. I meet my demand of my life and I wake up to wear that self that I need to that moment. But afterward, it dissolves. It's something like once UG said, and I don't know whether Krishnamurti said, he said, when I wake up in the morning, I become this person. I have to become this person. And by the time evening comes, it dissolves. I'm no more that. I'm empty again. And I wake up again to put on another role. Like why the Hindus have so many gods. They're saying the essence, waking up to different form. But they all are ultimately their essence. You follow?
Yeah.
And I need to wake up to the form because only through the form I can create the life I need to live out or meet the life I have to meet. Make sense?
Yeah.
Again, I want to draw this line to you. If you really hear me, aren't you free?
Yeah, definitely. It's like you have the freedom to change.
And be any self you want. You are not dependent on people anymore.
But I think we are so influenced by the people in our lives, right? That obviously we are free to change, but in that process of changing, you will unfortunately lose people along the way.
No, you are using your friends to remain the same. You're saying, why are you doing this? Now I have to change. So in that sense, you are using your friends. Like to me, somebody want to be my friend or enemy, I said, go for it. Up to you. I prefer to be a friend because I'm lazy to fight an enemy. But if you want to be my enemy, go for it. I will wake up to meet that too. Up to you. If not, because I'm lazy to change, I'm telling him, please don't be my enemy. Please don't be my enemy. Maybe him or her being my enemy is the best thing that ever happened to me. It gets me free from the self that created that in the first place. That might be the liberation. The Eastern concept and the Buddhist concept is you are trapped by a self. You become a husband, you become a wife, you become this, you are trapped. And they say that trap never lets you out. So the ultimate aim is to be free of all self. Anatta, they call it. Before Aham Brahmasmi, Anatta. So I'm pure essence. That's the concept, right? My approach is you need to be in touch with the pure essence in order to put on the self you need in the world. And self-realization is to realize the self you are being.
What if the self you have to put on is like in complete opposition with your essence?
No, it can never be. It can never be. You see, your essence is that no mind, they call it, the pure state. That pure state, whenever it meets life, wakes up to a self, right? You are saying, I woken up to a self, I don't want to change, I'm lazy now. Can the world be beautiful so I can remain this self?
Yeah.
So you are refusing self-realization. And why you get that kind of friend, that kind of situation, maybe the time for the self to go has come.
Yeah.
By right, you must be grateful. Thank you. You see, I'm a great believer in deity. I'm a great believer in deities, like statues. I'm a great believer. You know why? It gives a hint to me to the self I need to put on. Essentially, they show a light to the gods, so to say. If you follow the Hindu, they show light. Light means they're saying this is the pure essence. But this essence has taken this form. I need to take this avatar. If I have to wake up to be a king, or if I have to wake up to be a father, I am waking up to wear the role, to do what I need to do, but I'm not enslaved by the role. Follow? Like almost like jokingly, I say, I was a man before a husband. Right? I was a husband before I was a father. So these are roles that I wake up to put. Essentially what I am, I'm that essence who become this. Happily. But what I want to insist today on this podcast is very simple. I want you to see you are free from you. You are free from this idea of you.
Yeah, because I see it with people, right, where they're like, I'm stuck, I'm this, I'm that. But I'm like, but you're not though. You have the ability to
No, but they haven't realized the I.
Yeah.
There's no self-realization. They believe that I is them. I wake up at 7 and go to bed at 10, that's me. No, you can wake up at 5 and go to bed at 11 too.
But then there's also like in the world now, self-awareness specifically, it's a bit of a buzzy word as well. I've had people be like, it's just such a struggle to be so self-aware. And I'm like looking at them live their life like, which part of yourself are you actually aware of?
Right. How many of your friends you know, don't answer this on camera, you think are aware of themselves? If they do something and you point out, I know. I know I'm that kind of a person. I've become that person. They don't want to be self-aware. They are self-blind.
Yeah, and it sometimes
and then
really
they hallucinate there's something else.
And sometimes that really bugs me because I feel like it's what's the word, like they do it on purpose, purposeful self-unawareness.
Yeah. No, but you know why they have to be purposefully unaware? They believe even if they're aware, they can't change it because they think that's what they are. They think that's what they are, so they secretly live the self. The point I'm making, the self is an illusion. The self is the necessary costume I wear, the avatar I take to live this life. And when it doesn't serve, I can change it. Essentially, I'm no self, I'm just this pure impulse, an essence.
But how do you figure out what is your essence?
No, there is no questions of how to figure out. You're again trying to figure out a self. An essence is what is there. It's no mind. It's like a child. Have you seen a child? It's just a child. It's innocent. It is the awareness itself. So you're asking, now I have to figure out my essence. No, you're again trying to make another self out of it. In Zen,
seems like a catch-22.
Yeah, but there's no catch-22. In Zen, they say no mind. No mind means what? Just innocent. Just being. There's like the dog showing up and looking at you. Do you have a treat for me? Just. It is one of the most profoundest state when the self is lost and the pure essence sits. This is what they strive as enlightenment. This is what they strive as the Siddhi training. That you come to a point, there is no self. Non-atranally. No, the I is not there. But it doesn't mean you don't put on a self. In order to live this life, you have to put a self on. Isn't it? But now you are putting on deliberately, consciously, not a self that was put on accidentally. Now you are waking up to be the person you need to be given the situation. Right? Like your friend Vasugi, you watch her wake up and put on this role as a mother.
Oh, she really has.
There?
It's so lovely to see.
And even though there is a lot of biological component about being a mother, but she will wear it, very deliberately.
I know we were talking the other day. I told her I want to have a party at the farm. Like, do you think? I was like, wait, can you? I thought you can bring your husband and the baby as well. But like, if you came alone, can you be without him? She's like, Apshi, me and him are still one. And I was like, how could I even suggest?
That?
And I thought it was so sweet.
Now again, what is self-realization? Is self-realization knowing the self I'm trapped by? Knowing the self that is formed as me unconsciously? Right? Is for me not to be lost to thinking I am the person who wake up at 7 and go to bed at 10 is a reality. No, it's just a conditioning.
It's just a habit.
Just a habit. So I can change. So self-realization is actually liberation.
We are just like locked into certain things about ourselves.
Yeah. And then we are enslaved by it.
And maybe we just don't even know.
That's it. Because there is no awareness. That's why you need to be aware of yourself. And if you live rightly, your surrounding will reveal you. And then you realize, why am I being this person? It's time to drop. It's almost like you're born innocent, then you get corrupt, then again you have to find yourself back to innocent. But this innocence is power. I can put on the self I need to. When I go and sit in my company meetings, I become a CEO, I become a director, I become a businessman. I put on that role. When I come home, that goes out. In the East, there's a tradition before, when a man goes out, he puts a shawl over his shoulder. The wife will give him the shawl. He puts on. When he comes back, the first thing she takes before entering the house. Now you have to put that role aside, come back in. There's no need for self here. You can just be innocent. You can just be your essence, so to say. But you asked a question. Now people will be running around looking for their essence. Don't do that. That's another nonsense. Essence is just what is here. You don't have to look for it. You are that essence.
It's just like how we know that like vanilla smells like vanilla and lavender smells like lavender. There's no like notes that we look for.
It is known in the East as no mind. No mind. I am simply sitting, being with me. So the self is an illusion. To realize the self is to be freed from the self you are trapped by. By that you have the freedom to put on any self you need. And whenever you put on any self you need, you never escape your essence, because the essence is the one that holds the self. Which means you can grow. You can evolve. It's like this, no? People who have been single for a long time put on the self of being a single. Unless they learn how to drop it, they can never be in a relationship, Because the self you need to be in a relationship is to consider another. Right? Unless you can go beyond this self to this self, you won't survive your relationship.
How would you do that though?
No, because the self is an illusion. There is no way to ask how to do it. Just to detach. Just to know, no. There is no big technique. It's just a self. No, I don't want to be this self. Maybe a little habit. You just change and wake up to be another person you need to be. So I am saying there's no self. All self are bullshit. You are just pure essence. Based on your condition, a self is born. Now it doesn't serve you. Create another self. And then you are fit for your environment. You're fit for your life. So self-realization is the ultimate action to free yourself from the entrapment of the self.
Whoa, that's a mouthful.
Okay, madam?
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.